Access Client Solutions for Data Access by Birgitta Hauser and Greg Schmidt. My name is Ian Carrate. I'm Education Manager for Common. And if you experience any technical issues during the presentation, as I said, send me a message through chat. If you'd like to send a written question to the presenters during the presentation, use the Q&A panel that is on the bottom, and the presenter will answer your questions at the end of the presentation as time permits. Presenting today are Birgitta Hauser and Greg Schmidt. Birgitta Hauser graduated with Business Economics Diploma and started programming on the AS400 in 1992. She is an experienced RPG programmer as well as a database and software engineer. Birgitta also works in education as a trainer for RPG and SQL developers. Greg Schmidt is a 20-plus year veteran in data, document forms, and process automation, specializing in document automation and business intelligence, and he's over 10 years experience on the IBM I. Greg is presenting first. Greg, why don't you go ahead and take us away?
All right, thank you, Ian. So from today's agenda standpoint, I just have a few slides here to start, and we'll get right into Birgitta's presentation here. But I'm going to start with just a quick overview slide to talk a little bit about the HelpSystems digital transformation suite of solutions that we offer, and then move right into that main topic with Birgitta. And then she's going to be going through and showing you, how to efficiently run SQL scripts in ACS, and also how to set up preferences for formatting commands and output. And then also how to export SQL statement results in Microsoft Excel, and then also how to use the content assist option as well. After Birgitta is done with her topic today, I'm going to sort of do a part two topic, which is going to be how to extend the SQL power of ACS by using the SQL BI solution. And I'll finish up with a quick live demonstration, and then we'll leave some time at the end for Q&A here today as well. All right, the HelpSystems Digital Transformation Suite of Solutions, we can help you at every level of your digital transformation journey with your documents, processes, and data. Starting with the SQL Business Intelligence, which we'll be talking about a little bit later here today when I take over towards the end. It's really used for accessing your business data on your IBM I and other databases that you may have. And it allows you to examine, measure, and extract insights, and in turn improve companies' competitive advantages by seeing data trends and measuring effectiveness. We also have document report management solutions for secure access and approval of documents and reports. Forms management for the web-based forms document collection and document creation process and business forms approval. Intelligent OCR data extraction and document classification automation. This is really so you can help start to automate the data capture process off of documents that you might want to be putting into some of your databases to do reporting off of. So it really removes that rekeying process. And then we also have RPA automation processes to help you really orchestrate and automate two different areas, the business server and the business user side of the business. So things that are done manually today, we can put RPA automation tests in on the IBM I and Windows platforms. Then last of all, we can help you at every step of your departmental automation processes like accounts payable automation, accounts receivable automation, and HR automation processes. All right, now on to the main topic, IBM I Access Client Solutions running SQL scripts. Okay, Birgitta, I'm gonna hand it over to you to start us out.
So, okay, I first try to share my screen here and say hello to everybody. So greetings here from Germany. So here it is.
We see and hear you fine, Birgitta.
Yep. You see it? That's great. Okay, so here in Germany, it's already late afternoon here. We have 6 p.m., but it's still not too late. And yeah, I want to tell you or to show you today what we can do with IBM I Access Client Solutions, especially for the database run SQL scripts. We still have today the excuse, you start SQL because the ACS is not on the same level, because we do not have any prompting for ACS. That's not true. The guys in Rochester, IBM guys did a lot of things. And we have a big chapter here, which is SQL Content Assist, which is now the prompt for SQL and also for CL commands. And it is much more powerful than what you ever had in Start SQL. So, and I said, there is no need for Start SQL anymore, no need for any third-party tools, just use ACS. So what I want to show first, we start with ACS, and I will show it live. We configure a connection, then we will have a look at preferences because IBM changed the menus a little. So before we had options, now we have preferences, and I will show you a lot of things what you can do, such as changing the font, or even more interesting, to see a numbering, the lines numbering, or another thing is how to set a colored border. So that's not a problem. If you work on different environments, you exactly see, oh, this machine, this is that machine, and we can do it. Another thing which is really helpful quite often is to save a result of an SQL statement in Excel or other data formats, such as in CSV or an OD, an text format, etc. We can save it. So if someone needs some information and you can run a complex big SQL statement and then just save it as an Excel, send him with email, that's great. And yeah, another thing is IBM provides a lot of examples, SQL examples. They are all stored. You can use it, and even better, you can generate your all private examples, save them. If you need them, you just take them. So let's start with the beginning. So I will end here my presentation and then go directly to ACS. So if we start ACS, you should see here on this your machine. So I have it already here. It's my private machine. And if you do not find your machine or your partition here, you can configure it just going on system configurations. Here you can edit all the connections, or if you are missing yours, you can create a new one. So I could create a second one on my machine. So you need the name or the IP address. Yeah, dev.zk.de. Then you can have here a description. You can check if the connection works. So you see everything is fine here, only this one. Okay, so great. And then the other thing, what you can set is here, you can set a default user, or you can set share credentials, or you can prompt it for every time, etc. So I normally use this one, and I set my default user, and the other things, yeah, you can set them or you can leave them. It's quite fine. Just save it and then you can connect. So if we are working with a database, so here we have very powerful tools. We have in total 3 tools. First, we have the schemas. So with the schemas, we can generate and maintain existing database objects. Whether we want to create a table or a view or whatever, we can all do that with this option. And here, this is a SQL Performance Center that is for analyzing our SQL performance. These tools are very powerful too, but it's not the topic of this session because there are so many things I want to show you. Now let's have a look at the third one. This one is a run SQL scripts. So if we click on it, so it opens a Windows and you see here, it tries to connect. And it remembers the last connection. So now you see, oh, it connects to my IBM I. I'm signed in as Hauser because I already worked today with it. And yeah, it uses a new connect. That was a connection I used before. If you do not have any connections or any saved connections, it will take the default connection. And you can store, you can define your own connections. So that's the first thing I want to do it. We have here the connections. Unfortunately, I said it before, they changed things. So if we want to maintain a new connection or maintain an existing one, we have to go here under Edit to JDBC configurations. And you see here, we can add, we can edit, we can delete, we can copy or rename a new connection. I will delete the new connect because I played around before. And okay, now let's say I want to have a new connection. And as you can see, I have here multiple connection depending on in which environment I'm working, on which customer machine I'm working, and so on. And now I just create a new one. That means I just set add. I define a new name. So I said I take new connect again. And then I have a description, new connection. Okay, then I go to next. So the first thing we have to have a look on it is the format. So, and here is one thing which is very interesting. And if you're coming from a green screen, you should know it. It's a naming conventions. We have here two options, SQL naming conventions or system naming conventions. So what's the difference? So let me go back to my presentation because I prepared a few slides. So what's the difference? If we ask what's the difference between SQL and system naming conventions, we normally get the answer, oh, if we use system naming conventions, we have to separate the schema and the table with a slash. And if we are working SQL naming conventions, we have to use a dot. That's not longer true. Because since release 7.1 TR5, if we are working system naming conventions, we can use either the slash or the dot. But if we are working with SQL or if we are working on the IBM I, we normally do not qualify any objects on the IBM I because we use a library list. And here is a big difference between SQL and system naming. If we use SQL naming system naming conventions, then the current library list is searched. Great. That's the situation, what we use, what we can do. And so that's what we want. The SQL naming conventions is different. So that means all tables, views, and indexes, if we do not qualify them, are searched in a current schema or the default schema. And if we do not explicitly set the current schema to whatever, it searches the tables, views, and indexes in a schema that has the same name as a user profile. The library list, in either way, is ignored. So that means if we are working with SQL naming conventions, we can only access tables and views in a single schema. If we have multiple schemas, that means if we have a part in the master library and the other thing in the accounting and the other table is somewhere else, we can use one table unqualified or objects in one library unqualified, and all other objects, tables or views, we have to qualify them. That works great for all other databases. But in this situation, IBM I is special. So that's one thing you have to remember if we are working with SQL naming conventions. If we are calling stored procedures or user-defined functions, these objects are not searched in the current schema, but searched in the SQL path. The SQL path can be set with a set current path. And here we have the same way as in a library list. That means we can specify multiple libraries. But if our stored procedures, for example, are in the data library, we also have to specify the data library here. And here is also one thing, there's a special value label. And another thing why I show you this, if you are working with green screen, whether it's run SQL script or whether it's start SQL, the default is system naming conventions. All, I name it colored tools, whether it's ACS or whether it's any third-party tools, they all use SQL naming conventions. And for me, as long as I work on the IBM I like to work with a system naming conventions. I want to access the library list. I do not want to qualify it. And yeah, as said, we can set the current schema and we can set the current path if we are working with SQL naming. One thing we have to say, if we set a current schema and are working with system naming conventions, the library list is no longer searched because the current schema is not the same as a current library. Just to remember. Another thing with the long and short names, if we are working with system naming, we can use long and short names, but under the cover, the short names have to be determined. It's a little slower, but it's not too slow. So you can work even with SQL system naming conventions with long SQL names, which are quite often much more descriptive than the short 6 or 8 character long column names. With SQL, there is no conversion at all. So, okay, let's go back to our connection here. So let me go here. So I decided to use system naming, and I'm German, by the way. And I normally use, or here in Europe, we use the decimal comma and not the decimal point. I changed my connection. By the way, if you ever get a script from me, and you see the decimal separator comma, you do not have to change my SQL script. Just change your configuration so it uses the decimal separator comma and it works. We also can set date format and time format, but I normally let it on ISO because you do not get any problems if you speak with someone from the US and someone from Europe and someone from China, because they all understand this naming conventions. So this is the first thing what we have to set. Then the next thing, if we go to schema system. So here you see default SQL schema. That can be set if we are using SQL naming conventions. Here we can predefine our default schema or our current schema. So we do not, if we use then this connection, we do not have to set it explicitly. If we are working here with SQL system naming conventions, we can set here or predefine a library list. So I take here my com SQL QRY and sys IBM library and the QGPL, and we can specify either the libraries either separated with a blank or separated with a comma. That's not a difference. Another thing what I always said is here the isolation level, working under commitment control. The default is without commit, but yeah, if you do ad hoc queries or ad hoc updates and something goes wrong, then you have a problem without commitment control. If your tables are registered in a journal, you can use commitment control. And if you use commitment control, then if you do an update on delete and something goes wrong, you just can do and roll back and you are back to the latest level. If you try to do an update on a table that is not registered in a journal, then you cannot update it or delete it because you get an error message which says not allowed for this operation. So what we then can do, if I get this message, I know, oh, no, I have to be careful. And what I then do, I double and triple check everything. And then at the end, if I want to update it or insert it or delete it, I just add with NC, which means with no commit, and then I can update it. So that's one thing I do. So these are the important things. What we can do, another interesting thing is here the language. So you could change the sort sequence. Per default, we use a hexadecimal one, but we also can change it to shared wide table or change unique table. That means we can then search case insensitive. But keep in mind, if you change the sort sequence and you want to your SQL statements to perform good, you need to have the indexes or the logical files in the same sequence. Otherwise, table scans will be performed, but that's also one thing. Another thing is here, translate CCS ID 65535. If you set this option, so if you have a table where the columns are without CCS ID, so then the content is converted into the CCS ID of the job, and then you can read it. If you do not set it, you see the hex values. And then let's go to the other. Here we also have something very interesting. So per default, we allow all SQL statement. That means we can read, write, update, whatever. But we also could generate a connection where we can only read or only execute SQL statements. And so you can generate a connection where I say, okay, here in this connection, I only want to display things and I do not want to do an update. And if you try it, you cannot do it. I just set it back here to allow statements. And this one, extended metadata, is also interesting. With this, if we set this option, then we are able to get additional information in our result set. That means we can get the name and the object description, the column heading and the text for our columns. And so, it's for old tables, or if you have tables with columns with 6 characters that are A, B, C, X, Y, Z, no idea what it is, and you have see then the column heading. That's a great help. It could be a little slower because this data have to be determined and loaded. And if I then save it, I have here my new connect, and now I can connect to my database, connect database. And so I can decide here first for the connection I want to have or for the system. I take my one, and now I can use here my connection. It was the new connect, and then I connect. So now you can see it. I should have closed my emails. Just let me close it. That's normally I do it. Okay, so now we have here the new connection, and we see it. Now we have the new connect, and now we are able to execute SQL statements. As said, we just type them here, and I just take here from library list info. Library list info is an IBM I service which displays us the library list in this job. So every SQL statement ends here with a semicolon. And if we want to run it, we have here the option here. This one says run selected. So we run the current one. And here it is. Or we have here the run from selected. That's if you have a block of data, block of SQL statements that have to be run. So you can start somewhere in the middle and say, okay, run from this statement up to the end. It will automatically stop at an error. Or we can run a complete script. And so we have these three options, or we can also have here run them over the run all and selected. You see here the same things. So, okay, if we run it, so we can here see our library. We see first two things. The first thing is I did not qualify it. Library list info is in the QSys2 library, and yeah, I did not qualify it, so it read the library list and find the service. And the second one is here. We see our library list. So here you see, or we see my two libraries I added, the COM SQL query and the systools. And so here we get it. But going on a SQL statement and clicking every time on run selected, that's yeah, I don't like it. So I'd like to have a double click, and we can set it. If we go here to edit and then go to preferences, then we get a lot of things that we can set. And one of these options is run statement on double click. This is not set by default, by the way. So I change it. Another thing which is set by default, I moved it off, is highlight the next statement. I cannot use it if I hold a class or presentation, because it runs a statement and then positions on the next one. And so everybody gets confused. Another thing is stop SQL script execution when an error occurs. That means what I said before, if you run a script, it stops at an error. But it ignores here object not found on a drop statement. If we drop a statement and the object does not exist, it will remove it. It will, you get an error. And so I set this option, so it will remove it. And this is one thing I also like to set. If I run a complete SQL script with hundreds of select statements, so here, if I run all or run from selected, then it just run them, but did not display the result. And yeah, what I also have here, this is interesting, especially if we want to save our data in Excel or in any other date format. We have to set this option explicitly, because it activates here a scrollable cursor. And the optimization for a scrollable cursor is different from the optimization of a serial cursor. So if you need this environment to then analyze your SQL statement, you should not set it here. Otherwise, you may get different optimizations, and in your program, it does not run, and here it run, or the inverse. So that's one thing I have to admit. So, okay, I say, okay, and now let's go here. Yeah, we can execute it on a double click. And if we have already the result here, so I said it before, we can get here a lot of interesting information. So the first thing, if we go here, we see the name and the data type, etc. from all these columns I have. And if we go to on right click, we see also the details of the columns. Also, if we generate new columns in a select statement, we will also get here this information. And we also can have here the columns or column headings. And this is interesting. I think I will show you a different SQL statement, just another table from order header X. It's my order header table. So I just execute it here. And if we go here, I see here column headings. So what we see here is my my column names, but I could change it here to name and labels. So what you see here, this is my column headings. So you can have here the tables or the columns, and here the column headings. The last one here, I do not have a column heading, so we just see the name. and we can have them both, or we can have label only. So we have here only the labels, and then we can do it. Okay, so we can execute any SQL statement more or less complex. And if we want to save it, if we go here to right click, it's still not activated. That's what I said before. We need to activate it explicitly. So we can activate it here. And here you see enable save results. I click on yes, and then I execute my SQL statement here again. And now I can go here and say save results. And then you have a lot of file types here. So Excel or comma separated, tab delimited, old Excel or open office or one of this. So I decide here for Excel, and I change my schema. So let me go here to another directory. Where is Schulung, common. So, okay, I say it here. No. So I say just order header X, and I just save it. Yeah? And then I include the column headings. I say yes. And here's my result. So one thing, I have here only the column headings. I want to have the labels. So I do not have to re-execute my SQL statement. I just change it here to label, go back again, save results. I take this one, save it. Okay, so I override it, I open it. And now you can see we also have here the header information. And that's great. And then you have it, it's stored, and you can do whatever you want to do. Another thing, if we go here, a few nice things is if you have a look at the view. So we can see here the job log or the job details. We can also clear all the highlighting, the messages and the results. Here we get the messages, and we can clear the results if we want. So for example here, and if I go to edit, where we are, view, and go clear messages, so everything is cleared. But the interesting things here is first this one, line numbers. So what you can see here, we have a numbering. If you have a big SQL script, so then you can go through, we are at position 347 or 3000, whatever, and it's easier to find. Another thing is, that I like the font. So I always like to set here Consola's Courier New or Lucinda Console. So we can format it better. You can set it to a different size, bold and italic. So I decided here for Consola's 12. Okay. And here we have the nice thing, what I said, border settings. So if we are working with different environment, I can say show border, and I can select here a color. So I decided for this yellow one, and I can add an image or solid column or an image if I want. And I also can add a text. So I just had here my BHA dev, my machine text position. I want to have it at the bottom and the bottom border width. And as you can see, now it's set and I see it here. If I do the same thing for a different machine with a different color, it remembers it. And so if you open this session, if you open the screen or the run SQL script on a different environment or different machine, where you set a different color at the bottom, font, it remembers it, and so you get it. And if I work on different machines, I have here the yellow one. For one customer, I have a green one. For another environment, I have a red one. So, and I always know on which environment I am. Okay.
Hey, Birgitta, just want to let you know that about 5 to 7 minutes left.
Okay, so now I have to show you more interesting things. Let's go here to edit. The first thing is we have here an SQL formatter. That means sometimes you get very complex SQL statements badly formatted. And here we can set it. We can configure it. And here you see, yeah, I am in my environment, I have the uppercase first letter, I have identifiers first letter, and I have a break at a maximum length 80. That's why I also can save my environment in a source physical file member and execute it later with run SQL script. And the default margin for run SQL script is 80. That's why I set it here to 82, so it breaks correctly. And then we have different options. So in my environment, I have a no new line at a comma, but you also can set it to a no new line, or we have, I set it here and or before. And so this would be the result. And if I then go here and set, sorry, I have to have a look at the short, because I do it so automatically. So the Control Shift F, and it's formatted. So you don't see a lot here, but this is just my thing. Okay, now the more interesting thing. Here we have examples. So IBM provided a lot of examples. You see here, if we go on the examples, different categories. So we have the language and special registers, IBM iServices. You can go here, you can have a look at all these examples. And if you like one, you just can click on it, you get the example, you can modify, you run it. And if you have a nice example yourself, you also can save it. You just go here, highlight whatever you want to save. You go here to edit. You go to examples, insert from an, sorry, not insert, edit examples, save as new examples. And here you can save it and you put it in one of these categories and give it a name, and can also use the description as name. If you click on OK, you can get it. And then whenever you need it, you just go on this examples, edit examples, insert from examples, and I look for something, let's say IFS, and say, yeah, I want to have this, compare IFS files, insert, and here it is. And then I can run it whenever I want. So the other thing is what I want to show you, and the time is already short, is a content assist. And the content assist is a prompt and it works for all environments. So let's say I just have here select from, I know I want to have an com SQL QRY, and then I want to have my column. So you can content assist. We have an option, or you can click on control and blank. And so you get all these things. We can search it. For example, I know I want to have everything. My table starts with ord. You see here order header, order detail. You see also what it is. So we have here a view. We have here a table. We have here an, yeah, it's also a table. We can go here to syntax proposals. If we click again, control space, then, oh, here we don't have one. That's not a good thing. Let me go back. I just go back to here. I say, okay, I want to have here my order header. So, and then I if I'm looking for the columns, same thing. I can say, okay, I just click on it. So we have here company order number. We also can switch here with F11 between SQL names and system names. Unfortunately, my column names are shorter than 10, so I do not have extra names. I can click on it and then it's selected. And another thing is, not sure if you have seen it before. If we go here, oh, I should not highlight it. So I just go here and I can select all columns and I get them all listed. And I said, this prompt works wherever you are. And it does not only work for SQL statement, select statement, it also works for update, insert, delete, or if you want to call something. So let's say I execute an, I know I have a table function and I know it starts with, I think I find one. Okay, I have to close it. And now let's have a look here. Oops. Let's take qualified, Qs 2, IFS. And I have a problem here. I have a problem because I have one parenthesis too much, and now we get it. So here you see all the the common table expression, the table functions for this. And so I just say here, or go to read UTF, and now which parameters I have to execute. Again, control exist. I see here all the parameters with a parameter definition, and then I can select them, and then I can put here my parameter values, entities. So there is much more to show you, but time is over, and I will give it the control back now to Greg, and he want to tell you some more things. And yeah, so I will stop sharing now, and Greg, you can take over. No.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Birgitta.
Okay, you're welcome.
Make sure my screen is sharing here. All right, Birgitta, do you see my screen just to make sure?
We do.
All right, perfect. All right, yeah, that was some great information as always, Birgitta. There's a lot of comments coming in on how people were learning some new things and stuff like that too. So that's amazing information and stuff like that. I know I've learned a ton just by watching there. Sort of hypnotized me a little bit there from that standpoint learning. But now I'm going to finish up with just a little bit about the SQL BI and how how it allows you and your organization to easily access your business data, right? So, and within the SQL BI solution, we have easy to use interfaces that allow you to access that business data and help you turn that data into some of those visual insights, right? Like we're talking about here today. And then which allow you to create some of those actionable items against that data. You can design views and dashboards around the data inside the SQL BI solution, no matter what level of SQL knowledge you have from beginner to expert level. So if you want to be more on the using some of the SQL queries and stuff like that, you can do that kind of structure, or more beginner level from a design standpoint. Here's how the SQL BI solution really just brings it all together. So it's built with DB2 in mind, but it also allows you to work with other databases that might live on the IBM I and other systems on your network as well. So if you need to bring information together and create views across that data and dashboards across that data, you can. We really use a 3-step methodology around that. It's really collect and discover, understand and design, and also that whole share and deploy process inside of there. And share and deploy meaning that we can use web browser interfaces to deploy those views to the users, or we could also do web-based dashboards for those users, or use our Excel features to either from the web browser interface push it to Excel, and then also directly from the plugins in Excel, we can access that data. So we have a couple different ways to be able to, deploy that information. We offer a variety of ways for users that need the data, right? So, and we can put automation around these different functionalities too, meaning that you can set up views and you can set up scripts inside of here or schedule jobs to run and push that information out to individuals. So if individuals call more of a good morning report kind of structure, or certain timings of reports during the week or the month, you can set up those different schedules inside of here to be able to push that information out as PDFs or usable data in Excel. We're really always keeping that end result in mind at all times, right? So we're always provide those various ways, from dashboards, so you can share those via the desktop interface or web interface to analyze the key business metrics. Pivot tables, if you're looking at slicing and dicing the data a little bit more and getting into and drilling down into it. So we offer those different capabilities inside of there. Graphs and charts can be used for visual representation of the data and make the data storytelling more of a deeper meaning to the user, and also easier to understand some of those stories as well by showing those visual elements. And like I said earlier, we have on-demand access, such as single-click output from Excel using the Microsoft plugins. All right, just a quick demonstration I want to do here, just to show you some of that interface here at that point. But I'm going to jump right on in, and I'm not going to get to everything here today, but I just want to show you, sort of roughly, how the interface looks to be able to create those different views. First step here is to log in with your IBM I credentials. And when logging with your IBM I credentials, you have, so you can have different systems in here that you have access to, and then you can have different libraries that house those different objects. And objects to us are all these different things, from views to reports, client tables, scripts, applications, and dashboards. So you have a lot of different, options inside of here for those different, different ways you can create, around that data. For today's purposes, I'm just going to do a new view really quickly here and sort of show you this here, but I'm going to do a blank one, and I'm going to start from scratch. And with this process here, I'm just going to create, I'm going to use the more visual side of this, right? So I'll call it intermediate kind of level. We do have that SQL tab here where you can actually view the SQL directly and actually edit the SQL directly. But for purposes here today, I'm going to use this option here, which allows me to do more of a graphical capabilities here. So I'm going to put the custom master file in here. And I'm also going to add another database in here. I'm going to add the order head in here too, so you can see this. When we add these databases in here, you'll see that this one was set up to do auto joins inside of here. So you can set up auto join capabilities inside of here, or you can drag the different fields in the tables over to each other to create those different joins. And then you can right click and then do different join options. So if you want to inner join, left join, right join kind of feel, you can do those different join functions. Now, from a function standpoint, it's really building that report structure, right? I can say, I want to have the customer number be the first field, right? So you can drag and drop this information down there. I might want the customer name to be, one of these different elements. And then we might want the order information from this table and stuff like that. So we can create those different options here by dragging and dropping those different functions in here. Now we can display this data here directly from the interface. So you can do this from the viewpoint client itself to be able to see that information, or I can save this information here too to be able to deploy it through some of those different methods. We can do runtime prompts on this data too. So if I want to be able to create a runtime prompt in here, we do have that capability to be able to create those variables or runtime prompts. And creating a runtime prompt is pretty easy. If I want to drag that prompt down here, from that standpoint, I can come in here and actually create a quick runtime prompt from the standpoint and say, I want to do it off a customer number, and then I want to be able to create that to have to be able to do that runtime prompt. I'm going to do this here. So when they prompt on this information, they can actually prompt on that customer number here, and I'll show that here when I save it here. But for demonstration purposes here today, because I know we're bumping up on time here, but I'm going to save this out to my library, Greg Temp. And I'm just going to call it test. We'll put that out there in Greg Temp. Oop, let me do that again. Sorry about that. Make sure I put my right name in here. There we go. Test 2. There we go. Typed it wrong. So I've saved that out there from that standpoint. And what this is going to allow me to do is either through the Viewpoint client itself is deploy that option, or even better yet is through the web interface. So you can deploy this with 0 footprint at that point, right? And give access to users to those different views or dashboards directly through this interface. So they can come in here and access the different libraries. Now, again, all secure by their IBM credentials at that point. So you can secure those different objects down that they have access to. But then from this standpoint, you can, the user can double click on any of these and they can prompt on any of this information. So since I put that runtime prompt in there, I can prompt on that and then grab information and pull that information back into my views here as well. So this is going to go out and do that query, to my order head and order master and pull back that information. Now I can reprompt on information, so very easy for users to get to this information and reprompt and do different things with it. We can create charts and graphs around it too. This one isn't too visual from that standpoint, but we can use that data to create nice visual graphs and charts through the interface as well. So it creates subtotals and all different kinds of things. And the most important and the last piece here is save those results, right? So I can view these all through the web interface, but also be able to download them and export them directly to Excel and use them in the Excel if they need to slice and dice it even more at that point. All right, I am. And feel free to contact us for a little bit more in depth. I just did sort of that quick overview of some of those different deployments and stuff like that. But I'm going to hand it back over to Ian here to see if there's any questions, and we'll wrap up here for today.
Great, thanks, Greg. First thing I want to say is that there were questions about the handout and the replay from today's session. Yes, the session is being recorded, and I do have a handout in my possession. I'm going to upload that to the Common Learning Management System, and you will get an email when that's available. It should be either at the end of the day or tomorrow morning at the latest. Birgitta, there are a couple questions about ACS here, some basic questions. There's one here asking if ACS is web-based or if it's a local client. And
no, ACS is an IBM tool which is local, which is installed locally on the PC. There is also a web interface at IBM, but it's not the same. So we have ICS Navigator for web, but I think for the run SQL script, this is not a web interface. It's not on the same level as the ICS version.
All right, and people were curious about which version of ACS the demo was run from.
I have the newest one, which is a version 1.1.8.6.
Okay, I'm not sure if either one of you know this. Does ACS have a tool to migrate SQL queries from Zen Studio?
I don't think so. I don't know, to be honest, but I think it's not available.
All right, questions, send them in using the Q&A panel. Bottom right, we do have a couple more minutes to answer any questions you do have. This next one is there any reason why enable save results is not always activated and not activated by default?
I think I said it before. Save results, if you activate this option, then under the cover, a scroll cursor is performed. And normally in your programs, or if you do some analysis, you use a serial cursor. And the query optimizer optimizes differently. Because for a scroll cursor, it has to optimize in that way that the complete query is executed. Normally, it's optimized so only the first block of data is returned. So just to have no different versions if you analyze something. So you have a long-running SQL statement in your program, and you want to copy it into ACS and just try to run it and to optimize it with Visual Explain, and it runs with a different optimization goal. So this does not help. That's why this option is set off per default. And if we need it, we can activate it. And I always switch it off as soon as I'm done, as soon as I've downloaded my Excel data. So I have the same environment on both, I have the same environment.
All right, any last questions? Send them in through the Q&A. This next question is there a way to define a connection where only select statements, meaning no updates, deletes, or inserts can be performed?
Yeah, we can. You want to have inserts should be performed, but not updates or deletes. Could you repeat this question again?
Yeah, is there a way to define a connection where only select statements can be performed, meaning no updates, deletes, or inserts?
Okay, I misunderstand it. Yes, it can be done if you have on the, if you go on the selection, on the connection, and on the, just let me have a look here that I do not say something wrong. If we go to the connection and then go to the other option, there we have an access type, and the default for the access type is allow all SQL statement read and write, but we also can set it to allow select statements only. And if we set it to this, then the connection can, you can only execute select statements in your connection.
Okay, this attendee is looking to debug stored procedures. Can you do that in ACS, or
yes.
If not? Okay.
Yes, you have an option under the, let me have a look where it is, under the run option. There you have the system debugger. If you want to debug stored procedures, you can use this option, but if you create the stored procedures, make sure that you specify in the set option statement debug view equals source, because otherwise you can only debug the C code. So embedded SQL, SQL stored procedure is translated into C with embedded SQL. So, and if you set the option set debug view to source, then you can debug the SQL statements and not the C code. Otherwise, as I said, you can debug the C code, and with the system debugger, you can do it and then run it through the system debugger. As I said, it's under the option run system debugger. Then it opens the window. Then you specify your stored procedure or your user-defined function or whatever you want to specify it. But it's a little tricky because you have to specify the call name, the internal name. So you first have to have a look, which service program is it, which is a function, and then you can set it up. That's a little, yeah, not as nice, but yes, you can debug things with ACS.
All right, last chance for questions. This next one, is there a way to modify data directly in the results set?
You can do it. And this is, you need an updatable connection first, but then you can specify select, your select statement. At the end of the select statement, you just add for update. And if you run then this SQL statement, then you get the result here in the window, and then you can click on it with a double click and override this data, and this data is automatically updated. The select statement itself must be updatable. That means, yeah, you cannot update a something with a join. You cannot update something with a group by. But if you just have an SQL statement and say, select from whatever table, let's say address table where city equals Frankfurt or Munich. So, and then say, okay, I have to change here the first name of the customer or whatever, then you just override it and this works.
Okay, great. I think we are at the end of our presentation time. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Birgitta. Thank you, everybody in the audience. Everybody have a good day.
Yeah,
all right,
thank you.
Yep, thanks everyone. Thanks, Birgitta.
Bye.
Thanks, Ian.
Thanks for everybody.
All right, bye-bye.